seems like nowadays everyone is on a self-development kick, which I love. I think that you should do everything you can to improve yourself and improve your life. But we talk about our romantic relationships or lack thereof. We talk about our relationships with our family members, with our friends, with our coworkers. But what about your relationship with food? Hey guys, my name is Keisha Rice, and I am the pre-wife coach. So I help women learn how to get clear on what they really want, learn to set boundaries in their relationships, and attract the perfect mate for them. So in today's episode of Relate, I want to introduce you to T'ara Smith. T'ara is an amazing nutrition educator. She really excels at helping women and men with chronic illnesses learn how to navigate eating healthier, and she's so great at it because of her own personal experiences. So in today's episode, we talked about her own journey to improving her health, why it's so important to her, and how your relationship with food can affect all of your other relationships. I also got a little nosy and dug into her dating life. So take a look at this. I hope you enjoy it. We are inundated with messages about food.
Right. Yeah.
Between food commercials, between all these weight loss products, between
Yes.
all the Instagram models who are doing their
Yes.
tummy teas, and I think is that the latest trend
Yeah.
right now, the tummy teas, or
Yeah.
the thing?
Like tummy teas or wraps, and like the typical saying that says if you get up at 5 a.m. you're gonna if to work out, you're gonna be the best person of the day or whatever, or you're gonna be the most fit version of yourself. And a lot of it is just I don't think it promotes a healthy mindset towards wellness.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes people set these high expectations of themselves, which is fine, but more like unrealistic. That's not really conducive to who they are and what their goals are.
Right. And you see all these messages and you start thinking, well, am I doing this right? Is this
Right.
how I'm supposed to look? Is
Right.
this what's healthy for me? Is this what is going to make other people attracted to me? We talk about our relationships with ourselves. We talk
Mm-hmm.
about our relationships with romantic partners and with
Mm-hmm.
our parents and other family members and friends. But
Mm-hmm.
people don't spend a lot of time talking about their relationship with food. So tell me a little bit about your own journey as far as weight loss, as far as getting healthy.
I've had issues with my weight for a very long time, like going back into like my middle school days. So I'm just for context, I'm 26 now, going to 27. So I've had issues with my weight for about 16 years now.
Yeah.
And just a lot of and it came from dealing with some family changes and changing schools. That's kind of where it started. And being told that if you eat pizza, it's healthy because it has tomato sauce, but ignoring like the fact that it has it's full of fat and stuff like that. But then after a while, going through adolescence and then college and everything like that, it kind of I grew this unhealthy, attachment to food. Like food was it was my buddy. It was a thing that didn't judge me. It didn't look at me with disgust. It didn't say that it was disappointed in me. It didn't give me a bad grade or make fun of me. It was just there to be delicious and to make me feel good.
Yeah.
So 5 years ago, I went on vacation and to Vegas, and I looked at myself in the mirror, and I had like this shirt, like when you try to pull down a shirt and you're like, oh, I can pull it over these rolls or whatever, and I tried to suck it in, and then
Yeah.
I realized like even when I sucked it in, I could still see, all of the flab under my shirt, and I was just unhappy because I was at that time I had already been pre-diabetic before, years before. I had lost weight. I had lost the weight, and then I had gained it back plus more. And I was scared for my health. And not only that, but I was afraid that food was ruling my life. And I needed to break free of that, those habits. So, one of the first things I did was throw out every processed, item in my apartment, which, I wouldn't recommend that to anyone because if you're a college student, chances are you can't afford to really replace all of that food. And back then I was focused on weight loss. And I decided to train for my first 5K. and I gave myself 4 weeks to train for it. And I also paid for it. And I said, if I'm paying for it, I'm going to train for it. And that way 4 weeks is enough time where I won't be complacent and, put it off. I'll actually have to commit to it because race day is going to come and I'm going to be able to run the race.
Right. And
And
money is
that,
a huge motivator because we never want to feel
yeah,
like we waste it. So
right, exactly.
when you spend to
Exactly.
do something like a 5K, you stick to it,
Right, exactly. And it was like maybe like 30 or $40, but back then that was like, that was a lot. That was like groceries for like, 2 months or whatever. I lived in South Carolina, so groceries weren't that expensive.
Uh,
Um,
Gamecock here.
oh really? Girl, I went to Coastal Carolina. Wow. Oh my goodness. Oh wow. Okay. Yeah, this is a small world. Yeah,
It really is.
I went to Coastal Carolina and Myrtle Beach.
Y'all,
Yes.
again, we know each other through Facebook. So
Yes.
one of the
You know,
reasons why I love doing a series like this because you meet awesome people. But okay, seriously though, let's get back. Let's get back to the food.
oh wow. So I ran the 5K and I started training for it. I was training every day. Even if I couldn't run because I was sore, I walked.
Right.
And I had to tell myself it was one day at a time, one workout at a time, one meal at a time. And I made a commitment. And I told my friends this too. I said, hey guys, I need to get my health under control. I need to, if you invite me to Waffle House or to Zaxby's, the answer is no, because I'm trying to do this. And they were so supportive. They
I
were
love me
really
some Waffle
supportive.
House. I'm sorry, I just had a moment right there when you.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I mean, like it was great. And then like my life changed, and I went from a size like 16 or 18 to size like 10 by the time my final semester at Coastal started, and that was like 7 months later. So I had dropped like four jean sizes in 7 months, and I was active, and I was feeling great, and I started to learn how to cook for myself. I'm really learned how to make healthy food taste really good for me, and learned about making my own condiments and things like that. And my life hasn't been the same since. But I would say I did have those moments where I did fall back into some of those old habits because, just sometimes life happens.
Yeah.
Life changes, and my goals changed over time. And then, unfortunately, last year I did end up getting diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, but I don't think the diagnosis would have been as devastating, or well, it probably would have been more devastating had I, not have been on the journey in the first place.
Yeah.
So when I was diagnosed, I was in grad school and studying nutrition, and so I knew everything I needed to do, and that this background and in my personal experience, you know, sort of prepared me for this battle. And now today I am, working with someone who has diabetes, and my goal is to be able to help other people who live with it, and are also like, they feel like they need to have a healthier relationship with food and develop the sustainable habits that I've been able to keep. And over the last 5 years, I've been able to keep off over 30 pounds. So I've never gone back to my original weight.
Right. And, I think it is so important to talk about the fact that getting healthy is not
Yeah.
just weight loss. Around high school, I became determined to lose weight. And I did by becoming bulimic, by starving myself. And, I lost weight. I looked good, but I wasn't healthy at all. And, it took a lot of work to a place where you have a healthy relationship with food.
Yeah.
And I'm sure as a healthcare professional, you see that all the time with people who they have bad relationships with food and they think, I just need to lose the weight.
And yeah, I'm so glad you said that, because I could ask nutrition, well, specifically weight loss questions all the time.
Yeah.
And I had a former coworker who was on Weight Watchers earlier this year, and she plateaued. Like for the first month she lost like 10 pounds, and she was really happy. And then like she came to me one day, she was like, I gained back 3 pounds. What should I do? Should I cut out all the carbs? Should I cut out all the fat? And I said, no. I was like, you probably, if you're plateauing, that means you probably need to look at how much of each food group that you're eating. You might want to look at how many carbs or fats that you're eating daily. You might want to just exercise more. Yeah. That's really it. But you don't need to cut out any of those, nutrients from your diet, because your body needs it. Your body needs to function properly. And she was just like, well, that's not what I read on the internet. And I was like, okay, all right. Well, and
it makes everyone an expert.
Internet makes everybody an expert. I had someone send me an article, a friend of mine sent me an article talking about how fat, not carbs, makes people diabetic, and why carbs are actually good for diabetics. And I was like, ooh, but like when I read the article, all the research was from like the 1930s, and I was like, yeah, you can look at peer-reviewed journals sometimes for free online, and the research is right there. But it's a lot of misinformation out there, but it makes sense because the weight loss industry is a $64 billion industry just on weight loss. So the goal is to put people on a diet that won't succeed, and that way they can, try another diet when they should really just be correcting the habits, the underlying habits instead.
Yeah. And it's also a lot of mindset work as well.
Right. Because that's hard. Yeah, that's hard.
It really is. Yeah. And you talked earlier about having the relationship with food, that food is always there. And I think that's another issue that people have when they're dieting. Dieting.
Right.
Is the emotional aspect is the hardest. Other women who've gone through similar journeys as mine with eating disorders and all that.
Right. Yeah.
And a lot of that is not just the number on the scale. It's also a feeling of control. Having control over something when, other things in your life you can't control, relationships with other people, things in school or your job and all that. You can control this relationship with food, because food doesn't talk back.
Right. Yeah. As you said,
food doesn't walk away.
It doesn't walk. It is just there to be as delicious as you need it to be. Yeah. Mindset work is so difficult because what I found was, this person from my journey and from other people that I've talked to, is like, when you do the mindset work when it comes to food, it's not about the food. It's usually about something else that's going on in your life, or people that are in your life. So like, if you're someone that has a bad job, or you feel bad about the way your life is going, food is just your outlet. Yeah. However, you should probably address the fact that you have a bad job and you don't like the way that your life is going, and focus on rectifying that than eating your feelings. Like, really.
Yeah.
But it's so hard because you have to really dig deep inside, and it's sort of a truth that no one else can tell you. I think health coaching can help, but the point of health coaching is to make sure that your clients do the work. It's not because no one can do the work for you. And honestly, like, I think people need to kind of start to see themselves as their own best friend. And that especially if you're talking to people who do live with chronic illnesses, nutrition related illnesses like diabetes, the number one person on your care team is you, not just your doctors or whatever. It always starts with you. And I always I tell my clients now that whatever you do, you have to do it with self-love, because if you're the type of person to look in the mirror and say, oh my God, I look so fat. Oh my God, I look so, I hate the way this dress looks on me. Oh my God, I'm such a loser. Why can't I keep the weight off? Then you will never get to where you need to be. Yeah. You have to look at yourself in the mirror and say, like, I love myself enough to want to change the way I'm living, so the way I can live my healthiest life.
When you were going through your weight loss journey and all, the support, or sometimes lack of support from family, from friends, because I dealt with it myself. I see it with other people all the time too, that they get on these journeys to improve their life in some way, whether it's improve their health, whether it's lose weight, whether it's be more financially responsible, and they will have people in their life who support them, and they will also have people in their life who the person likes where you were before, because that's where they also are.
Yeah.
So they don't necessarily want to see you change.
Right.
Did you deal with people who were like that?
Yeah, on both sides. So I'll say this, like, so, like I said at the beginning, like when I first started, I told my friends. I told my friends what I was doing, and I told definitely my closest friends, and they were super supportive.
Yeah.
I can't say the same thing completely on the family side of things. One of my family members, my cousin, she is like a sister to me, and she has always been supportive. So she was definitely my number one cheerleader. But I definitely had other, I don't want to say it was intentional, but I think, let me just give you an example. Like, so if I come home and if I'm like making this healthy meal, and if I am making this healthy dinner, and I say, hey, why don't we eat this? Why don't we try this kale salad? It's really good kale salad. We can make the dressing at home. It's always like, yeah, but is it going to be good? Or if I'm like, well, I would rather stay home and cook a healthy meal than go out to a restaurant. And then there will be some sort of shaming factor into that. You're like, well, don't you eat at home all the time? Aren't you sick of eating that healthy food? Or even worse, that's really insidious, is when people bring the food around you.
Yeah.
And it's
Girl, I started losing weight and had a certain person in my life who still remained nameless bake for me all the time.
yeah, and it's or like other things, like, if I'm like, so it was a point in my life where I really got into weightlifting a couple years ago, and when I would show my progress pictures and stuff like that, when I would see some folks in person, they'd be like, well, you don't want to don't lift too much because you don't want to look like a man. I'm like, this is not how biology works. This is not how women work. What are you talking about? And it's little things like that. It's like the little jabs. It's the whole, well, wow, you're looking really good, but I hope you know that you're never going to be really. Someone actually did tell me, like, you will never be skinny. And I was like, wow. I was like, wow. Like, I never said my goal was to be skinny. Like, I said my goal was to be healthy. I have an athletic build. I know I will never be a size 2, and I am okay with that. Or if I am a size 2, I'm gonna do something very drastic to get there.
When you talk about working your butt off, as Black women, that whole thing about us being thick and curvy, and you don't want to lose your curve, so make sure you don't lose too much weight because of that.
I'm so glad you bring this up. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I would say this. I think there's definitely a cultural aspect to how we view health and wellness in the Black community. In fact, I think there's research that shows that when it comes to healthy eating, especially for someone that's from the South or your family's from the South, how the main staples in your food are usually high in fat and sodium, whether if it's chicken or greens, which can be high in fat and stuff like that, or mac and cheese. And then there's like an aversion to healthy eating. It was the same thing up here. But specifically to Black women, there's this thing where it's like, well, we love our women really thick and, looking healthy. And I'm like, but I can go to the gym and look healthy. But that's when I realized, like, what they meant was, that I carry a lot of weight, in my hips and my thighs, and maybe a lot of weight around my stomach. And I'm like, that's not the way, that's not healthy for me. So there's a certain image that I think we have of Black women and what they're supposed to look like. And I think that's kind of more detrimental because then we eat that way too. It's, kind of like to say, like, girl, you want to remain thick. So here is some sweet potatoes that I cooked that's drenched in a bunch of sugar, like, things like that. And I'm like, yeah, but you can be thick by going to the gym and and doing some squats.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I think there's another thing too, when you're Black and you live in the South, Greenville, South Carolina here. That's where I'm from.
My family's from Sumter, outside of Columbia.
But that's another thing too. Not just when you mention family, it's a body image thing. It's people expect you to look a certain way.
Right.
It's also generational. Girl, don't worry about those extra pounds. We all think in this family. It's cool.
Right.
And it's also a matter of, it's a love thing too. People aren't always trying to screw you over. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are some people who will definitely try to sabotage you with weight loss and all that.
Exactly.
But, you know, when I went on a journey to eat healthier and everything, I definitely dealt with a lot of, you know, aunties and grandma and all that who they're not used to cooking healthy.
Right.
And that's a way of them showing love to you when they make you something, when they make you that mac and cheese that they know that you love, when they make potato salad and all the Southern favorites that are filled with fat and sugar and salt and grease.
And it's really good.
Yes.
But it's really good. But it's also like, you know, you kind of have to be like a health champion, a wellness champion. But it's also important, I think, for any Black woman that's on that health and wellness journey, and you're kind of thinking about the cultural influences that have impacted your previous eating habits. It's to understand that it's like not everyone is going to understand. They'll love you, but they're not going to understand, and it's not your job to change them. What you can do is lead by example. So if you know that your grandma loves to make you mac and cheese, yams, maybe, I don't know, chicken bug, if you're familiar with that, and maybe some fried fish, you could recreate that at home by not adding so much oil to your greens, maybe baking the fish or grilling the fish, having grilled chicken instead, making, you know, changing around the types of cheese that you use and cream in your mac and cheese. They're little things that can make those dishes so much healthier. But if you introduce that to family members who are used to eating a certain way, you kind of get some pushback. But sometimes you just kind of have to lead by example at the end of the day.
I didn't even ask you. Are you relationship single?
That's an interesting question.
Are you gonna be Facebook is complicated on me? Like, is that what's about to happen?
It's hazy. I would say, I guess officially I am single. But there's some wishy-washiness in there. Trying to figure things out. I guess, like, I really never really thought about dating and health and wellness like that, aside from body image. That was another thing. So because I dealt with a lot of childhood obesity issues, the result of that was stretch marks pretty much everywhere, like my shoulders, along, you know, my entire sides, and of course, like the hips and everything, and my forearms. And that had an impact.
Yeah, definitely.
And actually, it had an impact the smaller I got. The smaller I became, the more conscious I became of the stretch marks, because they became more pronounced. Because if my arms got smaller, they would kind of cover more of like my shoulders and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And in terms of dating, like, I almost felt like a fraud at least, because here I am. I look better than I've ever have. My clothes fit better than they ever have. And here I am. I feel like I'm meeting these great guys, and I'm have to show them. At least I'm probably going to show some skin eventually, whether if it's like in a tank top or whatever, or a nice dress. And I would feel like a fraud, as if like I don't deserve to find someone who would accept that side of me either. And that's still something I kind of like deal with from time to time.
No, I definitely understand that. Been there as well. And it's also a matter of, you know, I think a lot of times when people have issues with unhealthy eating, there's often a self-esteem component to that as well.
Absolutely.
You know, you don't feel worthy of being healthy, and that translates into other areas of your life. So, you know, you become healthier, you have energy to go out, you become more outgoing, and you meet new people and everything, and people are telling you great things about yourself, and you have a hard time accepting that. And I think that definitely plays a large role in relationships as well.
Yep. Yeah. Because, like, you know, like I was the kind of girl that, like, if I was out with a bunch of girls, I would be the only one who wouldn't get asked to dance, and was, you know,
the purse holder.
It hurts. Yeah, I was the purse holder. I was the drink holder.
Been there.
If I saw a guy who I was like, oh my god, he's really cute, I want to dance with him, he would come over and ask my friend instead, and she'd be like, you sure? And then, or she'd be like, oh, I'm not interested, but my friend is interested. He'd be like, well, I was asking you. And I would just sit there like, I was like, oh, this sucks.
Yeah.
But like as my lifestyle had to change for the better, and I think it's not just from a physical side, but my confidence, really started to improve in certain areas. So I started to get more looks, but then, like you said, you get paid a compliment that says like, oh wow, you're really beautiful. Wow, you work out. You're really healthy. I love that. You're inspiring. And I'm just
meanwhile,
like,
you're like looking for the girl behind you.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And I'm also an introvert, so I'm like, thanks. And then I'm like, how do I make this not weird? And then I'm like, oh, I'm making it weird. And then, but it took some time to become really comfortable with the identity of being a health and wellness person.
T'ara Smith, thanks for talking with me. If people want to get in touch with you, how can they do that?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram at Cooking to a T. That's cooking and then TOA and then T. You can also find me at that same place on Facebook, and that is also the name of my website, www.cookingtoat.com. Feel free to join the email list for my Healthy Habit Makeover coaching program, where I talk about this in depth, and there are training videos and things like that. And it's a system that helps people move through different goals and milestones. So join the email list for that, and if my goal is just to help people. So, but that's where you can find me on social media.
Okay, great. So, guys, thanks for taking some time to listen to us. If you have any ideas about other topics, let me know, and talk to you soon.
Guys, I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. I love doing this series because it's been such a great opportunity to get to know the women in my circle even better. And I will talk to you guys soon, but I hope that in the meantime, these conversations will encourage you to have a coffee date or have lunch with one of the women in your life and see what you can learn about them that's new. Bye.